Kimani, proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, from the onset, I would like to reject these recommendations that are made by the Senate on the amendments to the Division of Revenue Bill. Honorable Speaker, as it has been rightfully put here, these are the realities that we are facing as a country. That if there is non-performance of our revenues, then there definitely would be a repercussion on our expenditures. Honorable Speaker, one of the basic lessons in accounting would be a balance sheet or an income statement, that for you to expand, you must raise money, you must raise revenue. And government has only two ways of raising that revenue. It is either, three ways, either through taxation, through appropriations in aid. Appropriations in aid are the charges that the government charges for services it offers to its citizens, or through borrowing. Now, there has been tremendous improvement on our A&A. For the last 2 financial years, you've seen almost 200% increase in appropriations in aid across government ministries. And of course, the implementation of a single treasury account, which means that all revenues are, if you go to a park, then you're paying on an e-citizen platform. It has actually reduced a lot of privileges that were happening in the payment and performance of these appropriations in aid. When it comes to borrowing, Honorable Speaker, if you remember, this Honorable House did pass a law that changed borrowing from our ceiling for borrowing from absolute figures to a percentage of GDP in present value terms. And as we speak, if you were really do a proper audit of our loans and include pending bills, because these pending bills actually also amount to a loan to government, then we actually stand the risk of exceeding that rate as a percentage of GDP as passed by this Honorable House. And therefore, it would be as clear as clear can get that if you have a revenue shortfall, then there must be an adjustment to the budget. And that is why this bill was reducing the proposed allocation from 400 billion shillings to 380 billion shillings. Honorable Speaker, it is very important to remind the senators and the governors that this is, even with the proposed reduction of this allocation of equitable share to counties, it is still 24.2% of the last audited and approved estimates of this government for financial year 2021. And therefore, this is way above the constitutional threshold of 15% as contained in Article 203(2) of our Constitution. And therefore, with this reality on the ground, what should we do? Then the expectations to the counties would be that even though they might have prepared their budget for 24-25 based on the previously approved equitable share of 400 billion shillings, then they should go ahead and prepare a supplementary budget to cut on their expenditures, just like the national government did by passing supplementary budget 1 in this House, Honorable Speaker. But in addition to doing that, Honorable Speaker, I would encourage, I think it's a Commission of Revenue Allocation, when they're coming up with a new formula for sharing of resources, then let some points be given, let some weighted points be given for raising own source revenue. Because we have counties that have the ability to really improve on their own source revenue, Honorable Speaker. But they don't do it. We have a lot of privileges in terms of when people go to pay for charges, say in a hospital, then they are paid in some different people's accounts. If you go to the parking fees that, for example, charged by counties, there is so much money that is lost here. So my urging to the county government is do another supplementary, cut the budget, and this is a consequence of a shortfall in revenue. When there is no revenue, when you can't borrow more, you have to cut on expenditures. And as relatively said, we must live within our means, make sure we prevent privilege of these resources, and counties must find out ways of raising their own revenues to support the counties. And I think there was a study that was done a few months ago that showed counties that did very well, including the great county of Homa Bay, led by my predecessor, the Honorable Gladys Wanga. So that is a way to go. Counties must find a way of raising their own revenues, not to rely only on those that are raised by national government, so that the 48 governments, the 47 county and national government can work harmoniously. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Waluke. Followed by the Honorable Ruku. And then
thank you very much, Honorable Speaker,
Proceed.
for giving me chance also to contribute on this. Honorable Speaker, I want to reject the report and thank the committee, Honorable Speaker, for bringing this to attention of the House. Honorable Speaker, there is a lot of money in the counties. If the counties are not stealing, Honorable Speaker, the revenue that they collect, if it is banked to the national account, national government account, Honorable Speaker, there is money that can help this country. But Honorable Speaker, these people, the counties, are just stealing. They are just stealing, Honorable Speaker. I think this money was just meant, the devolution was meant to help governors to steal from the people of Kenya. And that is what is happening, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, for a very long time, Honorable Speaker, we want the counties to work, not to pick the money, the little money that is there even from constituencies. Like last few months, Honorable Speaker, they looked for sports money, 2 million shillings, Honorable Speaker, that was with the CDF. After that, Honorable Speaker, now they are looking for money from Kera, roads that the CDF or MPs are maintaining. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this is the time now has come for us to come together and make a decision like what the majority leader has suggested, Honorable Speaker. We cannot continue like this. And these people are hiding money instead of helping the national government also. Most of the development in the counties, Honorable Speaker, are done by CDF. Most of the development in the counties, Honorable Speaker, are done by the national government. The national government is doing zero, and we are giving them a lot of money every time, Honorable Speaker. I support the rejection, Honorable Speaker. I reject.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And I want to thank our Vice Chair for moving this motion. Honorable Speaker, this issue, as we all know, emanated from the budget of this financial year. When we made a budget with the hindsight of collecting the revenues that we projected, but as we all know, it wasn't possible for us to continue in that trend, and especially after the happenings that we witnessed in the country then. And therefore, the country had to downscale the projections of the revenue-raising measures. And in the wisdom of this House, Honorable Speaker, it was passed that all the arms of government, including including Parliament, the Executive, and the Judiciary, want to take their fair share of the burden of the revenue-raising measures that could not be realized. But with the wisdom of this House also, Honorable Speaker, this House approved also that even the two levels of government had to also carry their fair share of burden. And that is why we came here in the supplementary one consideration. And we were able to downscale our budget by approximately 200 billion shillings. Honorable Speaker, as we are all aware, Parliament here, we lost money because it was the most reasonable thing to do then, that we had to carry our fair share. Something that has never happened in this republic, where the Parliament of Kenya, superintended by the members of Parliament, passed a downgrade of NTCDF by approximately 10 billion Kenya shillings. that had also not been seen before. And therefore, in the wisdom of this Honorable Speaker, it was thought that since this was cutting across all departments and all sagas and all spheres of government, that our county government also had to carry their fair share. However, if we look at our current budget as it is after the supplementary one, Honorable Speaker, with a budget of 3.887 trillion Kenya shillings, we realize that over 1.008 trillion Kenya shillings is going into the payment of interest rates of our financial obligations, which are loans. Last financial year, Honorable Speaker, the amount of money the country expended on servicing loans was around 1.8 trillion Kenya shillings. And therefore, that's our main burden. The second one is that we have become more or less a government that takes up most of the responsibilities. And it happens in economic theory. As the democracy grows, the people demand better and more services from government, and therefore government spending becomes bigger. That is where Kenya is, where we have government investing in healthcare, and therefore we have so much of our resources going into recurrent expenditure. The other day, Honorable Speaker, I was in Kiharu, and it was surprising to the people we were having a discussion with that some of the money we expend as a country on recurrent, on welfare, for example, the money we give to our parents who are over 70 years and above, it is hardly even possible for a policymaker to boast that we are spending money on welfare because it looks partly only 2,000. But the entirety of it, Honorable Speaker, is that we have budgeted for 30 billion Kenya shillings for that alone. And therefore, very little has been left for the major infrastructural development. And the more the reason, the haircut was applied to all arms of government and all levels of government, and that is why the equitable share fell from 400 billion to the current 380 billion, Honorable Speaker. However, in this budget, it reaches 14 billion because there is a carryover of 30 billion Kenya shillings from last year, which we could also not realize after revenue-raising measures. Lastly, in the recommendation of the budget committee, the wisdom of the committee was that when we budget for money and there is a shortfall of revenue, that
give him an additional 2 minutes, being the chair of the budget committee. Proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I was concluding by saying, in the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, we had indicated in a course that in case we budget for these monies, and by the close of the year, the country does not realize these monies, that the two levels of government were to share the shortfall appropriately. So that, Honorable Speaker, you know, we can budget to have revenues of 2 trillion. What would happen? By all means, the country only releases 1 trillion. We are obligated by passing the division of revenue that then we have to pay the county governments the stipulated amount. What if our revenue-raising measures are so drastically down that they undermine even other areas like salaries? That is why in the context of the committee, we thought we safeguard the 15% in terms of shortfall, but any shortfall over and above the 15%, then the two levels of government were to share proportionately given the shortfall. I thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much.
MP for the Honorable MP for Kisauni. Benzimba.
Yes, sir.
Proceed.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kunipa fursa na mimi kuweza kuchangia hii mswada wa nyongeza ya fedha kwa serikali za ugatuzi. Nimesimama hapa kukubaliana na bajeti